State Representative Brian Banks is facing 4 felony charges tonight. The Democratic representative from D-Harper Woods now stands accused of submitting false pay stubs to secure a loan. It is not the first time he's been in trouble with the law, but this time there may be some other forces at play. Let's bring in Rod Maloney looking into this, and there is some peculiar timing to these charges, I suppose, Rod, from the AG's office.
Well, it is peculiar in the sense, Devin, that the August 2nd primary is just now under just over 32 days away now. And that's what Brian Banks' contention here is that this is a political prosecution. But this is a white knuckle, a bare knuckle prosecution in that Brian Banks could end up with life in prison if convicted. District 1 State Representative Brian Banks wore a long face in 36th District Court today at his arraignment. No wonder. He's up against very serious felony counts of uttering and publishing, false pretenses to defraud or cheat in a financial transaction, falsely stating his financial condition, and there's a tough capper, habitual offender status from previous convictions. It stems from Banks borrowing roughly $3,000 from a credit union to study and take the state bar exam back in 2010. It's a crushing blow to the head of the Detroit House delegation, who's made enemies in Lansing for opposing things like the governor's DPS bailout and the de-insurance bill Mayor Mike Duggan backed. But first and foremost on the enemies list appears to be Attorney General Bill Schuette, who yesterday filed the case on the last day before the statute of limitations ran out. Banks attorney Ben Gonick calls the case
it's ridiculous. It's clearly a political witch hunt. I mean, there's no victim in the case. Representative Banks paid back the money nearly 3 years ago, well before he learned that there was any type of criminal investigation.
And Banks' Lansing neighbor is State Representative Sherry Gay Dagnogo, who is furious.
$3,000. Schuette should be looking at charges against the governor. What the governor has done to our school systems, to communities of color, to Detroit public schools, the Flint water crisis.
One of the reasons that Gonick believes the Attorney General moved on Banks is that he said that Schuette is backed by insurance companies in his political campaigns, but he was passing this all around because he said Mike Duggan doesn't like Brian Banks either, and he thinks that Duggan is backing his opponent in the primary. So all of this, he says, is stacking up against Brian Banks. Back to you.
Well, jarring to look at what the possible sentencing is here, Rod, as you mentioned earlier. What's next now? What's coming in the case?
Well, we go to a preliminary exam on July 14th. He has another appearance on the 8th that is likely to be just a pro forma thing, but on the 14th we'll get more from the state because Schuette's office is only saying what they've said in their investigative report.
We'll be on it then. All right, Rod.